What's up everybody, I'm Nihilist92 and welcome to my version of what makes this song great. So over the last few months I've been doing a lot of trivium, reaction videos, and in the process I've been talking a lot about music theory and what makes those songs so good. However, I've kind of been going in blind with those songs because, you know, they're reaction videos, I've never heard those songs before. So what I thought I'd do is do something a little bit different this week and talk about a band that I do know a lot about, and talk about what makes these songs so great and vicariously what makes this band so great. And that band, of course, is Bullet For My Valentine. So in 2010, Bullet For My Valentine released their official third album entitled Fever. And this is the album that sort of took them from being like a festival band all the way into being an arena band. Now this album's got a lot of the heavy hitters on it, which they keep in the set list to this day. Matt Tucker said that this album has pretty much been the highlight of his career. But despite the fact this album's got like a load of singles on it and heavy hitters, there's one song that I keep coming back to, which is sort of smack bang in the middle of it, and that is Pleasure and Pain. Some would say that this is a very underrated song, so we're gonna listen to this song together. See if it is the truly underrated banger that we all say it is. We're going to be talking about some of the music theory behind it, which is my favorite thing to do when teaching guitar. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is one of the first songs that sort of surfaced coming out of the Scream in Fire era. They started playing it live long before the Fever album was released. However, it was a completely different song at that point lyrically, and it went under a different title, and that is Who Do You Think You Are? And I believe when they took it to the producer, he hated it that much. In every way, he wanted them to scrap it. However, I think the compromise was to rewrite the lyrics and the overall phrasing. And if you go back and watch those first sort of live performances of the song under that title, which are all there on YouTube, I suppose it does come across as a little bit cheesy, and the phrasing just doesn't have quite the same flow as the finished product. Just before we get into the song as well, I do want to mention that if you love Bullet For My Valentine as much as me and you're a guitar player and you want some proper guitar lessons where with all the parts broken down, check out my Bullet For My Valentine Guitar Lesson Library, which is over on my Patreon page. If learning Bullet For My Valentine songs isn't quite your thing, there's lots of other guitar lessons on there, which are more general guitar lessons. And there's even a guitar content creator course, which are designed to help people who just want to start making reels but don't really know where to start, or even online content like this. You know, it's 2.5 hours worth of information on there with source material and stuff. So if you want to go and check that out and get started with making videos yourself and showing off your guitar abilities, go check that course out as well. Links in description for everything that I do are in my bio. Okay, so this is Bullet For My Valentine, Pleasure and Pain. Here we go.
Come take the sacrifice!
Okay, I'm pausing straight away, and it's very important here to note that sort of coming off the back of the Poison era, going into the Scream in Fire era, Matt Tucker blew his voice out. Okay, I think he had to have a tonsillectomy because he just didn't know how to look after his voice, and he was screaming on stage night after night. He wasn't given any guidance on how to sort of preserve the longevity of his voice, you know, especially when you've got such a hectic touring schedule. So coming around into the Scream in Fire album, his confidence was knocked. It's like you're a frontman of a band, you've had a very successful first album, and all of a sudden you can't sing. You know, and let alone screaming, you just can't sing or talk, right? And he had to have speech elocution. So he's gone on record and said that he can't really listen to a lot of the Scream Aim Fire album because of, you know, he just hates the way he sounds vocally on that album. So when it came around to this album, I think he had a massive point to prove, and that really shows, you know. If you think about a lot of the songs, there's a lot of space between the riffs and even parts where he's sort of like singing on his own, and that intro is you know, a manifestation of that determination to get it right and show that he had a point to prove. So let's listen to that again. It's a really cool production technique with a sort of swelling of it being reversed, and then it goes into it forward, I guess. Come take the sacrifice. Okay, let's go.
Come take the sacrifice!
Oh boy, nostalgia. Okay, so, talking about that main riff, and structurally as well, I just want to make a note here that it's a very typical thing for a metal band, and Bullet For My Valentine have sort of rinsed this idea where coming into a song, if they've got a strong riff, what they'll do is they'll have it sort of playing on the left side, whilst the right guitar will just sort of like ring out for a bit while it builds up. And then what they'll do is on the tail end of it, of that intro, after spinning the riff round twice, the right guitar will come in, but it'll play the sort of tail end of the riff, maybe a harmony at that point. And then what they'll do is they'll play it 2 more times, but in sort of unison with harmonies and counterpoints or whatever. But that riff, this is the reason why I always keep coming back to this song. It's got such a cool 16th note machine gun fire feel to it. And anything like that is my absolute favorite when it comes to music. So what's going on here? It's a single note riff. Bullet For My Valentine, metalcore, they're known for their single note riffs. However, this time it's kind of more in a thrash metal vein, I guess you could say. And it's always tricky deciphering, what key something is in when a riff doesn't particularly start on the root note, but there's a few giveaways like straight away. If you listen to the first chord that's rang out, it's this big drop C chord, right? It's just your open, so my ear is going, okay, we're in C straight away. Obviously, the guitars are tuned to drop C, so it kind of figures at that point. But the riff itself, even though it's starting on the minor 7, it resolves very quickly back to the root note of like C, I guess, relative to this tuning. So, we're starting on a note outside the key from the C minor scale, but we're resolving back pretty quickly. And, a lot of people, when they learn scales, they kind of learn them in this sort of box position. But what can happen there is you might get misled thinking, that your root note is your lowest point on the guitar, or in that position, if you like, And the minor scale is a 7-note scale, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 octave. And basically, they're just taking that 7th note, finding the octave lower, and then, going from that into the root. So again, we've got this consistent theme on the record of lots of sort of start, stop riffs, and not only is it impactful, it keeps the listener kind of in the groove and invested, if you like. It just leaves so much room for the vocals. But I want to talk about one other little thing going on in the riff, which makes it sound so sort of dangerous. We talked about the idea of the song being in the key of C minor. However, every now and then, he hits this sort of flat second note or minor second note, which is a note which is kind of outside of the minor scale, if you like. It's basically a Phrygian modulation, if you like, but it's just so, such a dangerous interval. You've heard all the bands do it, very sort of like Machine Head and stuff, but what's cool about it is it doesn't go from the root into that minor second note like a lot of riffs do. It's going from that minor 7 note into that flat second note. So, and if you get lost with your notes and stuff, if in doubt, just count it out, as Ben Eller always says, right? So you just count your notes. 1, 2. Okay, well, that's a major second. Knock it back 1. Now you've got heavy metal. That's a minor second interval. So that's kind of like the little secret ingredient they're putting into this riff that makes it sound so dangerous. There are others as well that work as well to bring sort of like the danger factor, but that's the one that sort of plays into the hook here and gives the riff its vibe. Into the pre-chorus. So the pre-chorus here harkens back to the intro, if you like. It's very, very simple. You know, what we've got is a very cookie-cutter song at this point. It's not too technical structurally, which the band was sort of known for doing before this album. You know, a lot of those songs on the first album and even on Screaming Fire were very sort of progressive in ways. There were journeys, but what we've got here is like, you know, intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, which I think was the goal for this album. Refinement. Let the riff and the vocal line take care of you know, the interest, I guess you could say. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a song that just sort of like goes all over the place. You know, so again, it's the band really sort of refining the songs, you know, as opposed to just writing the most complex thing they can possibly come up with. Such a cool chorus, starting off on an octave chord. And then it goes up into the relative major, okay? So that's why the song has such a lift. You're basically going from the minor key that it's in, but then it lands on the relative major chord. So for every minor key, you have a relative major, which is identical, has the same chords and same notes. But that's why that's third fret right there, if you like. That's why it gives it such a lift, and it's so impactful when they go to it. So one thing that I do want to make a note of here is the chorus does repeat itself. However, they did one sort of clever modulation on the tagline at the end. You know, the first run of it, goes down to a real sort of point of tension there, which I guess you'd consider to be the fifth into the sixth chord in the key. And that's a real sort of point of tension there, which is begging for it to resolve. However, it doesn't really give it the sort of chorusy ending that we're looking for here. So the first one, listen to how when it lands on the sixth chord there, it kind of really wants to resolve itself. So it brings itself back down to the relative major, back to the root, and here's the payoff. This is the secret ingredient. Nice, so that's the secret there in order to bring your choruses full circle. Just go down to your major 6, your major 7, and then resolve on your minor 1. Okay, we've seen it time and time before. We've seen it time and time again with your Iron Maidens and your Metallicas and stuff like that, but it really is the secret to writing a really cool chorus. It's that last part. I think that's a really cool decision, not to just have the chorus repeat the same ending on the chord progressions. It's a really smart move. Back into that riff.
There's no escape, you can't run from me. I can't run from you. Bow, 'cause I'm your god. Will you pray to me? 'Cause I'll pray for you. Push your sins aside.
Again, just little things, you know? You know, just little slide outs and stuff like that. It can make the song a little bit more interesting, especially with the stop-start idea that they've got going on there. I suppose it's one of those riffs that if you played it for somebody and you were just going, you know... You know, it's kind of like, it would be quite hard to see the idea that somebody's got in their head at that point, you know, because it's quite simple and quite caveman in its form. So if you combine that with some of, I guess, the sort of sketchy phrasing in the old lyrics, you know, no wonder there was a little bit of a button of heads with the producer.
Nobody cares, your head's fucked inside. Embrace your apathy. I don't care for you, you don't care for me. Embrace your apathy.
Again, we're just repeating ideas. Don't overcomplicate it.
Don't bring me pleasure. You just bring me pain.
There's the tension.
You don't bring me pleasure.
There's the major lift.
You just bring
And then here comes the build up.
and nothing in between. No, nothing in between.
So that's a real smart move as well, repeating it, you know. You know, that the secret of those two chords right there, building back into the root. The cool thing is, you know, you can repeat them round and round, and it's an ancient technique, you know, just you know, because it builds so much tension. And it's also a great sort of transitional thing, which is going to take us over into the next section. And here's Matt's guitar solo. So cool, so simple. Yeah, very, very simple. Very easy to do. And that's sort of the, you know, the OG Bullet thing. You know, this is sort of the last of its kind here, or one of the last of its kind on this album, where Matt and Padge would sort of have these little trade-offs. You know, one would take one section, somebody else would do the other. Usually Matt would do the more sort of slower stuff, and Padge would come in and rip your face off with something a bit more technical. But again, that guitar solo, you know, he didn't have to search far, you know. If this riff is all just come from, you know, that sort of box position right there. You know, he's basically taking notes out of the tonic. He's basically just taking notes out of the chord of the key that we're in and just phrasing them effectively. It's not hard to do once you learn your bar chords, because they're a great, and your power chords obviously, as they're a great reference point. And then you learn the scale that coincides with that. It's not hard to find the notes that you need in order to make a very sort of melodic, simplistic guitar solo. And that's why it works so well. Just listen to the guitar tones here as well. This is Colin Richardson peak engineering. Everybody's been chasing the Burn My Eyes guitar tone. I don't care who you are. But if you've ever, you know, played with the idea of a PV amp with a tube screamer in front of it and active pickups, it's the Burn My Eyes Colin Richardson sound that we have to thank for that. And on this album, this guitar tone's just got such a gnarl to it, such a weight. I love how that riff as well is just... You know, it's something like that, but it sort of... I think it resolves on a different chord, but it's just so simple. It's just so stop-start, and it lets the lead guitar breathe. So just remember, guys, with your writing, you don't need to have it riff salad from front to back in order to make an enjoyable song to listen to. Unless that's your thing, you know. But that's what these guys were going for. And there's the harmonies that we know them for. And when it comes to harmonies, basically, the secret to Bullet sound is they're playing in thirds, okay? So with your root note, you basically, you know, you play the third degree in the scale against that. So 1, 2, 3. Obviously, we can't play those two notes at the same time. So move that note back. And that's the Bullet For My Valentine song sound, if you like. It's weird, though, because basically you kind of count, like, 2 notes forward. However, in relation to one another, the notes are thirds themselves. You know, but that's the Bullet. You know, that's basically what's going on there, you know, so they just basically move the pattern up. So it can be quite tricky to get your head around at first, but once you've got the idea, it's very simple. And the one thing I will say about the counterpoint on that is, you know, when you isolate them, they sound quite jolly generally. If the first one's a very sort of like a more of a minor sad thing. So don't let that freak you out when you're working your harmonies out. A lot of the times the higher ones do sound quite jolly. But if you put them together, that's when the magic happens. So this is Padge's guitar solo now, and you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it, I guess. Padge has basically used the same formula across nearly 8 records now for his guitar solos, and it works. You just know it's him. You know, he always comes in with a unison harmony band. Okay, and then usually some sort of bend at the top of that because he's ascended. Something like that. You know, in this next part, it's just so simple, you know. That's so melodic. And why is it melodic? Well, he's basically just outlining pedal points off of a D root note or a C root note, if you like, because we're in the key of C minor. You know, so there's his root note. He just kind of minor third, fifth, fourth, back to the third. It's just so simple, and then he's resolving himself back in the I guess what you would consider to be the box position for the natural minor scale. Don't overcomplicate things. Padge's leads are very, very simple, okay? This is a great example of that. There you go. And that's another fine example of just using a textbook boomer lick that we've all heard a million times before, but it works, right? I think they kind of wanted to have like a really sort of like classic feeling going on with this album as well. So, and for you guitar players as well who are into recording, you can hear how this is done in takes. Do not be misled. If you think, you know, when you go into a recording studio, they have you play the whole thing front to back. It's not true. You know, in order to get good clean takes, you can clearly hear where they've stopped one take and brought the next one in, okay? And that's no inflection on Padge as a guitar player. That's just how things are done. So if you're ever nervous about going into a recording studio and you haven't quite got a part nailed with transitions and stuff, don't panic about it. Your producer is there to help you. And listen to it. See that it's right there. Stop. This next one. You can hear the bleed of the first guitar sort of like going out when the bluesy lick comes in. That's another cut. And that'll be another one. And you know that run at the end. It's strictly all C minor diatonic patterns, okay? So if you get those patterns down, you know, that might seem, you know, to the beginner quite intimidating, but honestly, if you learn those patterns and just, you know, how he's playing with a rhythm, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, which is the norm for this band, you know, once you've cracked that code, this stuff becomes incredibly doable. But there's a whole guitar lesson for this on my YouTube channel, an old one, which is for free. So if you want to go and check it out, how to learn this one properly, it's all there for you. This song really takes me back. Here's that build up, repetition, repetition, octaves. There we go. And notice how the drums kind of go into almost like a halftime sort of feel there. I'm not a drummer. My knowledge of drums is very limited, but you know, you can hear how it's not just because the riff is fast, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean the drums need to be fast all the time. Sort of, you know, dialing back a little bit on the cymbals and stuff really gave the riff the weight there, if you like. And then listen to Matt's guttural scream at the end there. He's got a point to prove, you know. He's back. He's had vocal tuition from Melissa Cross, you know, and he's feeling confident. And going out how we came in. So simple. You know, that's a very techie song in its riff form and stuff like that. But listen to the structure of the song. Intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, out. Done. That's how you write a hit. You know, this song wasn't like particularly a single or anything like that, to my knowledge. Or as big of a hit as some of the other ones on there. You know, if you've got a song like Last Fight on there, which is quite accessible, or Your Betrayal, the intro track, I can see why this was a little bit overshadowed, especially when it comes to radio play. But they played this song on the tour quite a bit, and it even made it a little bit through into the Tampa Tampa era live sets every now and then. I just don't think this song gets the love and attention that it deserves. Every time I play it, every time I hear it, it makes me smile, it makes me happy. It's got such a great chorus. It's got one of the strongest riffs I've heard from the band. And yeah, I hope you guys have basically enjoyed this little dissection of this song and all the elements that go into what make this song great and basically what make this band so great. These elements that we've talked about, these little refinement points and stuff like that, letting the riff breathe, having like a start-stop idea with the verses and stuff like that, having quite a cookie-cutter but clever variation on the chorus chord progression. These are all the things that made this album so refined. It was like, this album to me is like ultimate refined Bullet For My Valentine. And I know they went off and did other things after this. And you should check my little mini doc on Tampa Tampa out after this if you want to go into or take a look at some of the history on that album. But you know, this to me was like, if you took the Poison and the Scream Aim Fire, you took the elements off of there, which were great, and then you kind of funnel it into something that was a lot more streamlined. Everything's there, the production, the songwriting, the vocals, the ability. Yeah, pleasure and pain. Let's make a petition to get the band to put this one back in the live set. Hey, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to support me on Patreon and you want to have a look at all my Bullet For My Valentine guitar lessons on there, be sure to check that out. The link is in the description for you if you want to hear some original music by yours truly. The link to my first single, Red Flag, is also in the description for you guys. And yeah, like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this format, again, let me know what other song you want me to do. And yeah, I guess until next time, I will see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.